So we have a set of fonts that we're using, either open fonts from Google Fonts or typical default fonts like Century Gothic that we have. Our scrapbook file, which is going to be one scrapbook basically, and we have 7 layout files plus this one, which is all of the layout files into one. Now we have an Excel file that's going to be used in our layout general sheets, where we store most of our text information since it's easier to do it here. Location plan. This is a SketchUp file that only shows our site plan over a satellite image. And this file, which is our master model, which houses all of the views, all of the geometric information. This is my component collection that I use for most of my projects. So these are simplified versions, most of the components. So these are not photorealistic or high poly models, but these are mostly very low polygon. If we go over here, this is organized by rows and columns. Basically, our rows show its main each category. As you can see, these are simple rectangles or things like that. So I try and keep this very light. And then let's see, our toilet. I found that these like toilets and these kind of elements are very heavy models. All of these elements have a 2D and 3D hybrid representation. So for floor plans, I don't want to show most of these elements as 3D, but I want to show them as a 2D representation. So if I go in here and I turn off this tab, all of these, we go floor plan, turn into basic 2D representation that are easy to move. And once we go into either perspective or section, I turn these on. Now, the reason I have these as one big file instead of several smaller ones is it's easier to control. And what I normally do when I'm working is I just open 2 SketchUp sessions, select from here, copy, and paste into my main model. And the main advantage here is that most of these components already have a tag assigned to them. So when they come into SketchUp, no need to go down and hunt for the corresponding tag. Same for these trees, which these are very bare, but I like these ones because these are super low poly. You probably run into issues where you put in a tree in layout and accidentally turn it on, then you have to go and wait forever. Very low polygon. So this is basically my collection. This is the Excel file so this one holds several tabs that can be edited according to your specific needs, because it's way easier to edit text inside a spreadsheet than it is inside layout. All of these are something that we normally have inside our drawing, and it's a lot easier to edit here. Go into layout and reference it there. This is a placeholder model for now, so that I can assemble this whole set. On this model, I'm adding all of the views, all of the sections, elevations, all of the information is here. This is the way I prefer to work. We can do it the other way around and split it or create reference files for this model. But since I'm working mostly by myself, I do keep track of different versions. So I do normally a version every day or every major revision, so I can go back. As far as scenes, our first section is working scenes basically. So if I go here, I have in this case, since this has 2 orientations, I have 2 different sets of axes. One for our living area and one for bedroom area. Another one that's set up as color by tag, so that helps me categorize information. And these are working tags basically in whatever style I'm working on, which is normally this one. I can go up or down our set. Our general set holds normally views that are referenced on our G0 series, so location plan and a couple of general perspectives. And here's the important thing. What I'm doing here, as I mentioned before, I'm pulling information, or as much information as possible from the model. I'm getting our title for each drawing is pulling information from here. My name and my description. So whatever I put in here, if I change this, it'll be copied over into layout automatically. So I try and be very careful about this and try and keep all of these views with their proper name. Now our floor plans, these are basically as expected. These are normal floor plans, and I add these views which I find useful or illustrative that I can add next to a normal plan to add some extra information. I have a chapter for RCPs which are not there yet, and these are our elevations, which are mostly here. So I'm using fog. I turn it on and off, but the thing I want to show you is if I go into my line work, I'm going to move these back to, say, to untagged for now. So this element, this is my boundary for all of my views. So what I normally do after finishing my model is I take this boundary, adjust its height, width, and length to the size of the model, and then I go over all of these views and do zoom extent and update each view so that this is consistent. This is a cylinder, not an oval or a rectangle, because I want to avoid shifting the vertical 0 in each view and large sections, which I normally get doing create section slice, and then I go in here and complete the information. So I have room in here for 4 sections, or if we want to do 6, or whatever the project needs, it's here. Same here. Besides our normal door schedule, we have graphical representation of all of our door elements. Same for our windows. Casework, which is currently empty. In the 900 series, I have 6 perspective views set that are referenced in our model. And this structural plans, this is something that we do here locally over there, which shows basically like structural view, turning stuff off. I have these grouped as a series of chapters that I still am reviewing a bit. So to understand it, generally our conceptual chapter holds it's like major containers of information inside the model. So for instance, if I turn this on in large section, this will be this group. Same here, casework, windows. So these are macro groups, let's call them that. And these are, I'm not using here because there's no existing or demolition. All our tags on. So this is my model, and as I was mentioning, so I'm going to turn these off because I'm not using them for now. And I have, for instance, landscape context, which is context of the whole model. Landscape site, which is my site. Reference images, which if I'm pulling information out of a PDF, or they normally live here. And these 3 in this case, but whatever number of stories will be the number of tags here. So these hold our first. So basically, if I want to see this is my basement level or my foundation level, my roof level, or my first floor level. These are macro groups that hold all the information inside each of those stories. General annotation are things that I am trying out here in this case. So I am trying to add some information, some text information inside the model, and the reason is that's my way of keeping things in synchronicity with the rest of the model instead of having that in layout. So for instance, so far in this model we don't have that much information, but let me show you what I mean. For instance, dimensions. If I had dimensions or some specific dimensions that I wanted to have here, I would keep them in this tag, but I'm not here. Spot are normally elevations. So in this case, if we go in here, these are spot elevations that I am pulling out of my model, and these is a group that has face me option turned on, so it'll always face the camera when I'm in elevation. And for this, even though I mentioned minimum plugins, this is one plugin I am really using and I really recommend, which is Correct Text. So this one allows me to do fun things, like for instance, I'm going to copy this one over. So as you see, if I change my elevation, it'll change the elevation accordingly. And if I want to edit this, it's very, very easy to edit. And without, it's not much complexity. So this one I recommend. And same for my grid. This is a component. So in this case, I have 2 grid components because I have it split in 2. And each one of these elements is this is simple and this is a complex view. So it allows you to change its size, leaning width, spacing, offsets for this, alignment. And in this case, I can have either border on or off and different types of borders if I want to use this, for instance, for referencing windows or doors or things like that. So what I was mentioning, it has a couple of variables, which are basically XYZ, that shows you either coordinates or dimensions, date time, a lot of stuff. That this is one plugin I'm using. So back to the model. My line work, I'm keeping our major line work are not defined per tag. I'm doing them here. So basically hidden, no plot, dash, dash, dot, and continuous. In case I need to show something I can as continuous inside a group that has a tag assigned itself. This is my landscape group, which shows, I think these are self-explanatory. And my architecture, which I have, these are all using AIA conventions, so ceiling, door, floor, stairs, and turret, fixed and free. I try and keep my groups compact as possible. Options would be to show, for instance, all my plumbing fixtures in another set, but I'm not doing it here, just to keep minimum set of tags, and I don't see a need to isolate one from the other. My glazing, roof, wall exterior and wall interior, and my structure, in case I want to show structural elements, will live here. And inside of here, I'll show it to you in a minute. All my electricals, mechanical, plumbing, all that stuff will live in here. Our scrapbook has basically at the top line weights, normal line weights that we're using, our fonts. So we have left, center, and right aligned, and we have 3 different sizes. I try and make this very big step. We have this, which is twice as big, and this is 3 times as big as our base size. This is our dimensions, imperial, and this is metric. I'm not using auto scale since this is not very reliable. We have some referencing these, which use some amount of auto text to get C levels out of our plans or our sections if we need to. Same here, which are component description and definition that I normally use for doors and windows. So I try to add information either in the component definition or in the description, so we can pull that information using these 2. This one, which I'll show you later a bit more, but this is basically our title block for each of the views, and I try and pull out as much information as possible, so I don't do any manual editing of these. And these are typical interior elevations, detail callout, section and elevations, base colors and base fills. So let's start with our layout files. So this is our G series of sheets, which is composed currently of 3 sheets. Our cover sheet holds basic project information. Some of these are auto text, some are manually inputted, called some renderings, things like that. Our second sheet, which has all the text information that the project has, and those are edited in our spreadsheet. And our location set with, in this case, 3 drawings, but they can be arranged however way we want. A couple of things here. One, I have 3 title blocks provided, and the important thing here is that most of the information besides this, with most of this information is auto text, so there is no need to edit any of this information manually. For instance, let's go, if we go into document setup, go to auto text, most of this information, like who checked, who drew, this is an auto text, drawing number, all of these information, auto text. For instance, if I want to change my project name, this is edited. And same thing here, most of this information. I would say all of it filled in here, so no need to go and double click any of these fields. And the other thing that we do here is if we go into pages, just right here where it says location plan, this information is controlled by the page title, so that you get the idea. And the other thing that we edit here is, for instance, the series is normally, if it's A0, A100, A200, G0, this is edited here. Same for our revisions, and yeah, that's it. And the other thing is, this is something I wanted to show you that I briefly mentioned before. This is this scrapbook. So if you see, there's nothing to be manually inputted here, so everything is automatic. Drawing numbers, scene name, scene description, on our scale. All of this coming straight out of the view. One thing that when you do this the first time, you'll probably end up with this leader in the middle of nowhere. So you'll get this. So please go ahead and bring them in here. The other thing, use a minimal set of layers, because I feel makes the whole thing easier. And if we go in here into our floor plans, a bit ahead, I try and group our main elements into groups. That way I have a keyboard shortcut set for turning these on or off. But the main thing that helps doing this is layer management in layout is not ideal. So if I keep this inside a layer, if I have some rogue element inside another layer, I just can do this manually and move it into our main layer. But I do this for most of the elements, including dimensions, all graphic elements, our grid lines, and all of these are on shared layers. And I try to keep all my views in the same position when I'm dealing with multi-story buildings, so that way this is reused all across the project inside one main. These are our elevations, which are preset in a model. That way sets all of these views in their corresponding position. One thing that you may want to review is I preset most of these stacks. I added some amount of line weight. These are normally shown as hybrid. Same for floor plans, and our 3D views I normally show as raster. Okay, if you remember, I showed you this element in SketchUp. This is referenced right here at the same level. So if you edit this information in SketchUp, this will come without issues here. So our sections, nothing special there. I just add this field, which is currently out of sync. You edit this manually once you have your drawing set up. This is our enlarged sections and details part. So these drawings all come out of our main SketchUp model. They are referenced over there. I have right now 2 sheets currently set up. Go here or here. So if you see, these are SketchUp textures, line work, all done in SketchUp. And if I go in here and I go into a corresponding view, in this case enlarged sections. If I zoom out, you'll see that I have, this is our main container group, and inside of this we have one subgroup for each section. So I generated this using section slice. So I did that, created a couple of polygons and added information as far as layout. The other thing I already preset here using grid text is these elements are preset for levels. So basically this is level 0. If you see, our origin is right here. So if you copy or move any of these elements to show our main levels, these dimensions will automatically adjust referenced to the left. So any information that you may want to add to the left of here, it will show right here. Doors and windows. So what I'm doing here, and I'm not showing any of that. Well, this does not match the model, but if it did, let's go back to the model. You'll notice that inside this main container, there are several sub-elements. I'm not a fan of adding groups inside of groups and groups and groups. It makes working harder. So I am careful with my tagging. But one thing I do here is I add information as far as instance and definition, and I pull information from its instance in layout so that I can reference all of the windows, all of the doors, things like that, using this information. And the idea is that basically once I have the model mostly complete, I go in here and go into architecture, copy them, and go into Windows schedule here. I think I did this on this model already. And I place them here without doing anything else, place them flat. Once I'm in layout, I add a couple of dimensions. If I want, I can do tagging using here. Let's go to our windows. So I can pull information using I have component instance. If I get this information right here. So this information I pull straight out of layout, and the other thing I do is I just add some dimensions. I have to make sure that I'm using the correct scale. If I wanted to, I could eventually pull, for instance, X and Y dimensions. For now, it's just basic. And our last sheet is this one. It shows our 6 images. You can arrange them however you want. One important thing that is a bit of an annoyance and I have not figured out how to do is whenever I change the text or the title, it'll adjust its width. It may have something to do with alignment or something like that, but eventually I'll figure it out. So this is my last sheet and this is the set.